America is a theater where many wonderful stories are created about life in townships.
This is such an incredible story.
Usually becoming lost over time.
Not only from the business perspective, but from the personal perspective.
Those stories are like treasures and should be in plain sight or kept in a safe place.
Not only do they love their employees and they love their families, they love their town.
All communities have great narratives of success and real-life accounts in small-town America.
Life would not be as much fun without the Gordons.
They're the foundation of the community. The Gordon family is the kind of family you want in your hometown.
From humble beginnings, the Gordons have lived a 100-year-old story that has helped shape the town of Statesville, North Carolina.
Because our grandfather, he set it up for us.
He was a good father and good leader and good teacher.
The L. Gordon family in the town of Statesville have in many ways grown up together, both enriching the character of each other.
Everybody knew about Gordon's, the iron and metal, and everybody knew about the furniture store. It was just an institution in this community for so many years.
For almost a century, the L. Gordon family are the only Jewish immigrants that started a family business in Statesville, North Carolina, that continues today.
When I was growing up, if I said my last name was Gordon, the first question was, which one's your dad? So that was really fun to feel proud and also to have such wonderful role models.
We respected one another the highest regard, not only for my father-in-law, Al Gordon, but the oldest to the youngest. We had a mutual respect.
You know when you can feel a rapport, a genuine feeling about a person, and they're just genuine folks.
These are highlights about an unassuming family and their hard work, ambition, and life lessons they have learned.
I think that's how it was with the five brothers. They all had their different skills, and they all got along very well.
And passed down from generation to generation.
And now, in my generation, myself and Barry and Richard, I mean, we all have very different skills. And what I think makes it work, even though we're first cousins, we get along like brothers.
They have established a legacy of tremendous business success.
You take care of family, you take care of employees, you take care of your customers, you help each other get through.
Furthermore, a treasured marriage between a family and a community that have grown up together.
This community is richer because of the many lessons they provided us. Work hard, play hard, pray hard.
Also a legacy of goodwill towards all folks in need in this small southern town.
I would say that they would set the highest example of intermingling with the community of all faiths, of all colors, of all beliefs.
It's hard to imagine this town without the Gordons. They've been such a significant component of everything worthwhile that's happened in this community since I've been here for the last 83 years, that it would just be a different city than it is now if they hadn't been a part of it.
This is the Gordon family story. The time was about 1900. Harry Gordon was a Lithuanian immigrant married to Annie. They lived in the Lower East Side of New York City. And had their first child, Louis. During Harry's early adulthood, he made a living rolling cigars.
And he got a piece of tobacco in his eye,
causing a serious infection, and eventually he lost that eye. With the fear of losing his other eye, Harry had to change professions and decided to become a scrap dealer. He collected old rags and scrap metal and reselling it on the streets of New York City and later North Adams, Massachusetts. Going door to door looking for scrap in the big city was exhausting work, and he started looking for a better climate.
There's got to be a better life somewhere else. So they packed up and headed south had no idea where they were going to stop.
His Jewish faith was going to be the key factor wherever his young family was going to live.
He said, this is where I want to stop, right here.
Harry found B'nai Israel in High Point, North Carolina.
Grandfather Gordon went to synagogue every morning.
And every night.
And every night too, that's right. And he walked.
He loved his temple and cherished his life with Annie and his children. As a scrap collector, Harry also found great opportunity in this growing historical furniture town.
And he took this cloth and cut the buttons off. There was no zippers back in those days. And cut it up into squares and sold it to the furniture industry to rub down the finish on the furniture. And that's how he started in the scrap business in High Point, selling rags as well as handling metal.
Annie turned out to be an entrepreneur herself, buying a number of small homes to rent for extra income over the course of their years together.
She had chickens in the backyard, she had a garden, and she sold eggs.
The couple had 5 children. Over time, Harry had a well-respected name in the business community of High Point. His first child, Lewis, helping at an early age, learned his father's trade. Lewis absorbed everything he could from his father and became quite good at the scrap business.
Treat your fellow man the way you want to be treated. So if you do that, you're going to be successful.
Then, at the tender age of 17, Lewis had the ambition and desire to go out on his own.
He said, I got $50, and I'm going out on my own. I said, where are you going, son? He says, I don't know, but I'm going to find me a place.
A moment that if he had turned one direction or the other, that town Lewis picked was never going to be the same.
When Louis Gordon came here in 1917, there probably wasn't 10 other Jewish people here at most. He became a citizen of Statesville. He didn't become a citizen of the temple. He became a citizen of Statesville. He proceeded to be a citizen of this community and a good citizen of this community.
Lewis ignited a spark, thus creating generations in a relationship that continues to burn invitingly warm between the Gordon family and the community of Statesville, North Carolina.
You look back at Lewis Gordon when he was 17 years old, and it's obvious he wasn't a typical 17-year-old.
One could only guess the reasons he left home or what the young Jewish lad was thinking at the time. But one thing is now clear. When he made his way west about 60 miles by rough roads to Statesville, North Carolina, with a horse and a wagon and a few dollars in his pocket.
You know, when Granddad was out picking up scrap out in the countryside, you got to know a lot of people.
From so many people I've met in town and in this industry, that he was just a vivacious, friendly gentleman.
He quickly made friends in this predominantly rural Protestant community.
This man would wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and get scrap.
At that time, city roads in Statesville were dirt with more drawn wagons than T-model Fords.
Statesville was a small little town. He struggled. He struggled.
Paying the monthly rent for his building was extremely difficult. At one point, he strongly considered returning home to do work with his father again. But 2 events changed his mind. First, his father, Harry, in no uncertain terms, cautioned against leaving, breaking the lease.
You got to stay there through the lease that you signed. You signed it, and you have to honor it. You're gonna stay right there, and we're still here. No more leases, though.
More telling was the goodwill of Oscar Steele, a prominent partner in the J.C. Steele & Sons Company, with whom Lewis did business. Knowing Lewis to be a hard-working young businessman with a good work ethic, Oscar arranged to provide a business loan that Lewis would pay back in scrap metal to the steel company. That financial break from an older business colleague provided the young entrepreneur the hand necessary to stay on his feet.
He made it.
Months later, with the loan paid off, Lewis expanded and opened up a furniture store in front of his building at the suggestion of another businessman in town. That early generosity and advice from business folks in town solidified Lewis's roots in Statesville. His business now on firmer ground, Lewis began to think about his future of raising a family in Statesville. One weekend, while attending a wedding, he met a young, beautiful lady who would become his future wife. Her name, Charlotte Schechter.
The word lady, put it in the dictionary and put her picture. She was absolutely a lovely, lovely, amazing lady.
As they corresponded, they grew fonder of each other and were soon married. Barrels full of their correspondence were once stored in the furniture store's warehouse and are now lost. Lewis and Charlotte had 5 boys.
This is Alfred. This is Melvin. That's me. And that's Saul. And that's Ellis.
While Lewis worked long hours overseeing the scrap metal business and furniture store, Charlotte managed the household and raised the boys.
My mother was very calm, very soft-spoken. Never raised her voice. She was tough. Good mom.
As soon as they were able, the boys were given chores, both at home and in the scrap metal yard.
And we helped.
As a boss, Lewis cultivated a culture of hard work and cooperation of the 5 sons.
He set the standard for the Gordon family.
Life in the yard was rigorous and demanding, and the days were long.
Because if you don't have work ethic, and you don't work with people that have work ethic, you're not going to have a business.
However, there was another side to this father of 5 sons. When not working, he was a family man, enjoying his kids, and, as success allowed, providing amenities for pleasure, horses for riding and show. Later came trips to the beach and new family automobiles. But even at home, there were cows to milk, stock to care for, and chores for everyone. Religion played a significant role in the life of the Gordon family.
What was right, what was wrong, what was acceptable, and what was not acceptable.
Even though for many years the temple in Statesville did not have sufficient members to remain open. In fact, at one point, Lewis employed a rabbi to come and live with his family and teach the boys the Torah and the Jewish tradition. The playtime would stop when the rabbi chimed them for religious school. As the boys grew up, they were watching their father pay it forward.
Lewis Gordon and my grandfather were great friends and friendly competitors. My granddad always told me what an honorable man Mr. Gordon was.
Watching their father grow into a people's person.
It's been maybe 2 or 3 hours swapping stories with the farmers, and they all knew him. Either he bought steel from them back early 20th century, and they also bought furniture through the years. Knew them all and loved to tell the stories.
He was a very, very charitable man, and he thought for others. He cared for others.
A community leader and successful businessman and a generous humanitarian.
When my father-in-law passed, there must have been 500 people there thanking us for him. Got them through the depression or recessions or anything without a word. You don't pay me back. This is what I want to do.
Hard work, family, religion, and community service were at the top of Al Gordon's list of life values.
If you've been challenged by your father, particularly, you're going to do well.
From his father Harry through Lewis, these values were to be passed down from generation to generation.
My dad and his brothers were my role model.
Down now to the 5th generation.
To always be the best person you can be and always try the hardest that you can be.
And you can make the world a better place. You don't have to go across the world. You can make a world a better place where you are.
We'll be right back.
The Gordons and the Cutays go back a long way.
Most people know America as the land of opportunity, especially an immigrant like Dr. Cutay coming to the U.S. wanting to be a citizen.
Where was I going to practice?
Leaving uncontrollable situations from his old country, The Palestinian wanted a fresh start.
And that I needed to be accepted as a good doctor that was rendering the best service to this community.
Dr. Katay graduated with an OB/GYN degree from the American University of Beirut. The doctor and his newlywed Anne chose to live their American dream in Iredell County.
I want not only to prove to them that I did better work than what people were accustomed to, but that I was going to do it in spite of these anonymous letters.
A few town leaders opposed the doctor and his family permanently settling in Statesville. The Palestinian now felt alone.
And so my dad, in his conversations with Mr. Gordon, I think got a lot of guidance from Mr. Gordon. And Mr. Gordon said, well, you know, I've got some office space down here on North Center Street.
And Dr. Katay gladly accepted Lewis's offer. However, a forceful local leader opposed to Dr. Katay settling here in Statesville sought to buy out his rental contract from Lewis Gordon. But Lewis refused the challenge.
Mr. Gordon was true to his word, and that's what started the friendship.
Mr. Louis Gordon has replied, I have shaken the hand of this young man and promised him that the building will be ready and he will be in this building.
While their two cultures clashed in another part of the world, here in Statesville, North Carolina, a Jew and a Palestinian were forging a friendship which continues between their two families up until the present day.
My father delivered the children of most of their families, so that connection is even stronger.
These two, working together, saw what was in each other's heart, and in doing so, it felt right for themselves and what was right for the community.
65 years ago, it has evolved into this tremendous relationship, a relationship that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
The third and fourth generation of Gordons share many wonderful memories of the Big House in the Oakland Heights area of Statesville.
When you're younger, you don't really realize, what it's about till you get older, and you look back and say it was something special.
Lewis and Charlotte lived in several houses early in their marriage. When four of the boys were younger, Kalman was not yet born. They recall living on Sharp Street. This residence was located just outside the downtown area. Like the majority of houses back then, it was on a dirt road and heated by open fireplaces in the central areas of the house.
And we played out in the street all the time in the dirt. We had a cow behind the house.
Later, around the time of Kalman's birth, Lewis and Charlotte bought what is affectionately remembered by the family as the Big House.
Why'd you call it the Big House?
It was a big house.
And by neighbors and friends as the Ponderosa from the television series Bonanza.
This was a barn.
It was surrounded by acres of open land, where later several of the brothers, upon marriage, would build their first homes and start their families. There was a barn, an open barbecue pit, and separate living quarters where the rabbi lived.
Our dad built that. We had a rabbi that lived with us and taught us kids Hebrew.
One day, in the making of this documentary, a serendipity occurred.
Hello.
While standing outside the Big House, now owned by another family, the current owner came out and invited Saul and the camera crew inside to tour this home he grew up in.
I would love for you to come in and see it.
This was a magical moment for Saul.
Would you used to run up and down these stairs?
Man, did I. I could fly up and down these steps.
One of the two remaining 5 brothers.
Oh my gosh, my mother made cinnamon rolls that you could smell in the whole neighborhood. Honest to goodness. Come home from school and you could smell it before you hit the yard.
Memories of growing up in the Big House took over his conversation.
Well, we had a lot of good times here. Lots of good times.
If the walls could talk in the Big House, they could tell many stories about boys being boys.
Oh, we did everything in here. We played pick-up sticks, played ping pong in here too. Alfred mainly. Ellis played some. Melvin, he was already big and he's already working. Well, they had a big round coffee table. And one of us would stand in, one of the other would stand over at the steps and ping the ball across each other. Till our mom got tired of hearing the ping, ping, ping. She said, okay, boys, it's time to cut it out. So we'd keep pinging. She said, I'm going to call your father. So we quit then.
It was in this house that Melvin, the older brother, began his famous historical rifle collection.
And he had the most fantastic collection of those guns that you can imagine.
A collection of rifles he would later donate to the NRA Museum in Virginia. The four boys that married, Melvin being the exception, lived within walking distance where family gatherings occurred ritually.
It was fun. I mean, it was so much fun. On weekends, we would always go visiting, which meant you get in the car, everybody piles in the car, and then you just drive. You don't call, you just drive to Aunt Rona and Uncle Alfred's house and hang out with them and Richard and Robert, and we just had a blast. Or we'd go to Toby and KALMAN'S and hang out with those kids. And then we'd go to Aunt Barbara and Uncle Ellis's.
3 generations of Gordons spent endless time building memories in and around the house on Oakland Avenue.
Thank you so much again.
Well, you're welcome again.
I mean, it's so appreciative to me. It brings tears to my eyes. It brings back so many memories, so many memories. It's been a wonderful day.
There is more on the 5 brothers, beginning with Melvin. We'll be right back.
He was the perfect Southern gentleman, always.
He introduced me to somebody here in town when I was with him as his nephew. That really was quite special for me to hear that.
He was just an all-round super guy.
Of the 5 sons, Melvin, being the oldest, was the first to help his mother, Charlotte, in the household and the first to work with his family in the scrapyard. His mother died a sudden death in 1951.
Daddy was 51 years old and real upset. And Daddy couldn't cook. He couldn't do anything in the house. He couldn't
boil water.
He couldn't do one thing in the house. Nothing. Mama spoiled the devil out of him. She really did. And Melvin knew how to cook, because Mama had taught him.
At a young age, Melvin's responsibilities increased. He became a primary caretaker of the home and surrogate parent to Kalman, who was only 13 years old at the time.
He looked after the family. He really did.
In 1964, the boys lost their father to a heart attack.
Melvin, being the oldest son, he was the last word.
Melvin's responsibilities exploded as he ascended to become CEO of L. Gordon Enterprises.
Every day we had a meeting at the furniture store. We'd all go down and sit around a round table and talk about what we've done and what we need to do and how we're going to handle it.
Melvin embraced his father's philosophy and values, both in family life and in the workplace as leader of L. Gordon Iron and Metal.
He was honest as the day is long, and if somebody needed help and he found out about it, he'd help them.
His favorite household friend was a black lab named Bullet.
Quick story about Bullet. The steak was about this big, and the plate was about this big, so it leaned over the plate. And Bullet's head was right by the steak. So we're eating away, and all of a sudden, Bullet just zip right to the tail of the steak. Melvin takes his fork and jabs the steak, cuts that piece off, and Bullet pulls it back, pulls it out, eats it, and Melvin just keeps eating like nothing ever happened.
Melvin was a pivotal family figure, securing the Gordon legacy of friendliness, openness, hard work, long hours, and humanitarian endeavors.
Also want to thank Dr. Bill Cherry, who's been very helpful through the years.
Several years before his death in 2007, he donated his unique and large gun collection to the National Firearms Museum in Fairfax, Virginia, where it remains on display today.
Ellis was a very sweet man, a very, very sweet man.
And he was extremely close to his mother, loved his mother.
Ellis Gordon was the second son of Charlotte and Lewis, and the first son commissioned by his father, Lewis, to take over management of the Gordon Furniture Company.
And he loved the employees that worked there. He had personal interest in each and every one.
He was the tallest of 5 brothers, and personality-wise, perhaps more cut out for retail work than for work at the scrapyard.
Ellis was an excellent businessman.
If you talk about Ellis, it's hard not to mention his wife, Barbara Freed, in the same sentence.
His kindness, above all, his generosity. The most important words in his vocabulary was be kind, and he loved his family. They were like this, the 5 brothers. That was important to him.
They have both since passed, but friends and family remember them as madly in love.
And he loved Barbara to death. I mean, he would just sit there and he would call her and he would giggle on the phone. And
Ellis ran the business behind the scenes while his brother Alfred, who would later join him at the furniture store, was the out-front person. They were a great team, bound by love and respect each had for each other. Ellis was respected as a quiet man, a thinker that got a lot done.
Ellis was very, very confident.
He won a business citation from the White House while President Nixon was in office for efficiency in sales and marketing.
And then after his funeral, they would thank you for making their life a better life because Ellis Gordon was in it.
Barbara, his wife, was the outgoing lady. She was involved with the Statesville Little Theater from its beginning.
Very popular. We had several members.
She taught French at Statesville Montessori and volunteered in several schools throughout the county.
Count your blessings.
At the time she was president of the Temple Emmanuel Ladies Auxiliary, Barbara helped organize the popular Businessmen's Luncheon.
My grandmother is just one of the best people I've ever met in my life.
Both Ellis and Barbara were truly family-oriented and took great delight and pleasure in their 2 sons, Barry and Mark, and later in their grandchildren. Ellis died prematurely at the age of 68 in 1993 due to her heart condition. His was the first death among the 5 brothers.
I'm the oldest Gordon living right now. Thank the good Lord.
Saul is the middle son and the first brother to join Melvin at the L. Gordon Iron and Metal Company located on Salisbury Road just outside the township of Statesville.
Hard work and a strong mind.
Like his father Lewis, Saul enjoyed the employees and he modeled what hard work looks like.
Give the company an honest day's work for an honest day's pay.
Saul loves horses. He made many contributions to the Iredell community, like organizing and directing the Tar Heel Classic Horse Show. He also delighted in organizing competitive events for owners of horses across the Southeast, which in turn brought much attention and new business to Iredell County.
Oh boy.
One of the 2 brothers, still living in 2015, mostly retired, but at almost 90 years, he still comes to work at L. Gordon Iron and Metal almost every day. In the tradition of his father and brothers, Saul has been for over 50 years an active participant in many businesses and civic affairs of the city and county. Saul was named Citizen of the Year for Greater Statesville and School Volunteer of the Year for North Carolina. Among the 5 brothers,
My Uncle Saul is one of the best storytellers I've ever met in my life.
When I was little, I remember Grandma Annie would line us all up as we got ready to leave. And we knew when she went to see the chest and got out her little snap purse that she's gonna give each one of us a piece of money. So that's what she did.
Saul Gordon called us one day and said, "Are y'all gonna be there a little while?" We said, "Sure." He said, "Well, can I come by?" I said, "Sure, I'd be glad to see you." So he drove over here and started carrying in these brass giraffes over there in the corner and said, "I just wanted you all to have these because I know your wife is so dedicated to giraffes." So it's just another example of the generosity and the thoughtfulness.
I've just been so blessed.
Married to Jean Lester for over 50 years, they have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son.
Wonderful children. Charlotte, Craig, and Susan. God chose me to be so lucky. Truly. That's the way I feel, my heart and soul, and my children feel the same way.
Jean, his wife, is well known in the community as an avid fundraiser for many and various charities. To this day, they both will tell you family is everything and would not trade anything for it.
I would go to religious school in the afternoons to learn Hebrew, and Daddy would pick me up. We'd go to the office at the furniture store, and then on the way home, every afternoon, Daddy would stop by the cemetery to see his mother. And he used to always tell me, I'm gonna cry. He used to always tell me how lucky I was to have my mother, and what a wonderful mother his mother was. And, you know, it always made me sad that I never knew her, but honored that I was named for her. And it was just, I think, what a loving tribute that he did that.
Everyone knew Alfred.
Uncle Alfred reminded me so much of my dad, just in so many ways. His personality, the way he just made you feel at ease when he talked with you, and I just always had a really special bond with him.
I'm a better person because of growing up with my dad and his brothers.
Alfred Gordon was a UNC Chapel Hill sports buff and the fourth son of Charlotte and Lewis. Apparently, he loved talking about the Tar Heel basketball and football programs as much as he loved working at the retail store. When not watching the Tar Heels, he was the front man at the furniture store, welcoming and wooing his customers with cordiality and friendliness.
Ellis ran the back of the house at the furniture store. Not many people knew Ellis because Alfred was out front.
Alfred met Rona Summerfield from Wilson, North Carolina, and the rest is history.
Alfred was the love of my life, if you really want to know. And he had a great personality. It was just a wonderful life, and I do miss him terribly every day of my life.
They have wonderful boys, Robert and Richard, that are now grown men. They also have 2 adoring grandchildren.
Oh, it's really special.
We like to cuddle.
A lot.
A lot.
In its best days, the furniture business was widely recognized well beyond Statesville as a showcase for all kinds of home furnishings, including appliances and carpet. Their store was one of the first in its industry to utilize the internet for advertising purposes.
They were good marketing people, and they knew quality, and they sold it at a good price.
They sold everything one could want installed or showcased inside and outside your home. Lewis named it 4 stores in 1.
And when they decided they needed a bedroom suite or a library table or any piece of furniture, well, Grandpa would go down and talk to Mr. Gordon.
A memory still alive among old-time Iredell customers is how often after a house fire in the county, a Gordon truck would show up with furniture for the grieving family. Over the years, generations of Iredell families showed loyalty to shopping only with Gordon furniture.
When I worked at the furniture store, there would be older folks who would bring in their children or even their grandchildren to the furniture store, and to meet Alfred and to meet Ellis and to introduce them. This is where you shop for furniture. That's where we've always shopped, and Alfred and Ellis were always extremely thrilled to meet them, and it touched me knowing that 60, 70, 80, or how many years to all these generations these folks have been coming in.
Alfred Gordon was a household name because of each customer was treated with sincere kindness.
He had a lot of heart. He loved people.
The furniture store closed in 2004 when Alfred was suffering from health issues, and he died in 2006. He was the second of the brothers to pass away due to health complications.
I never did like trying to sell furniture and retail, and there's just more action at the scrapyard.
KALMAN'S, still living, is the youngest son by several years, being only 13 when his mother Charlotte died suddenly in 1951.
She was a wonderful lady.
The only brother to go out of state college, he graduated from the University of Alabama with a business degree.
You had to be really good in math.
He then returned to Statesville with his young bride to begin his work at L. Gordon Iron and Metal.
I'm KALMAN Gordon.
And I'm Toby, and we're husband and wife.
Her maiden name was Toby Starr.
He is a wonderful person. He's a marvelous husband, a great father and grandfather, a good role model.
Returning home, Kalman joined Melvin and Saul at the scrapyard. Melvin died in 2007, leaving only Saul and Kalman among the brothers.
We had to make a living, for the family and the employees.
The new team managed a highly successful and growing business that continued to gain statewide recognition in their industry for management, safety, and cutting-edge technology.
When you buy a new piece of equipment, it seemed like back then, it would bring in more business.
Kalman was the only brother who served in the military.
They didn't need anybody, but they still had to draft and you had an obligation. There's no war, nothing going on.
He and his wife Toby have 2 children, Wendy and Louis, the namesake of his grandfather who died just before his birth.
All right, so we're going to be welcoming Reed up to the stage next.
Today in their 70s, you could say they are pretty hip, attending a rap concert.
But I made it this far, so I know I'll be alright. What it's like to be me.
When it is their grandson Reed rapping,
Special thanks to all my friends and family for coming out to supporting me.
they got the front row.
That was amazing.
The uncles have been a very big force, but I think behind every good man is a good woman.
The Gordon women are strong women. Strong women and strong-willed and absolutely beautiful women, not only on the outside, inside and out.
And I feel very, very lucky, very fortunate.
Marrying into the L. Gordon clan created an adventurous life for the wives of the 4 brothers.
They treated me like a princess. They truly did, just like Saul did. And Saul treated his mother like that, and they all did, and they treated me the same way.
Louis Gordon welcomed with much love and open arms the new brides of his 4 married sons and the grandchildren they bestowed on him.
He loved his family and especially loved his daughter-in-laws too. He was wonderful, wonderful man, very, very generous. Really, I loved him too.
The wives of all 4 brothers quickly formed a family bond while living near the big house in Oakland Heights, helping to raise each other's children.
The family was so special here. We all lived close together. It just made it easy. It was very easy and just wonderful.
Later, the children of the 4th generation have grown and developed the same ties with their own families.
I'm very, very, very lucky to be a part of this family.
I feel blessed to be here and have such a good man.
He's wonderful. We've had a very good marriage. We have been very fortunate.
If it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't be organized. I'm not organized. That's why I'm organized.
Enjoy a laugh. Enjoy being, really, enjoy a good story.
We like to laugh.
Yeah, we do.
She's my best friend, and she is definitely the best mother and the best wife anybody could have.
Sweet.
Still, all the wives of the Gordon family became involved in the larger communities of Statesville's civic affairs and service agencies.
There you go, sirs. Thank you very much.
Like their husbands and a generation before them, it is an honor to use their time, energy, and leadership for the betterment of the Statesville-Iredell community.
I'm not talking about, 5 or 6. I'm talking about hundreds of ways the Gordon family has touched this community, things that nobody else out there knows about.
Stay tuned. There is more.
I just love to hear Saul tell the story of the 5 pencils.
Be sure you get that on camera because it's a beautiful story.
The father, how he inspired them to be very close with one another.
We were all sitting around the desk, and he opened his desk drawer, and he put 5 pencils together, rubber band, handed them to Brother Melvin. He said, "Melvin, break those pencils." I said, "Dad, those are brand new pencils. You want me to break them?" He said, "Yeah, break all 5 of them. Come on, break them, break them. So he tried and he tried. He said, hand them back. Dad, I can't break those 5 pencils. He said, okay. So he took out 1 pencil, put the 4 in the desk drawer, and handed him the 1 pencil. He said, here, break this pencil. You want me to break that new pencil? Yep, break it. Popped it just like that. He said, let that be a lesson to you boys. Together, you're strong. One at a time, you can break just like that. Right.
And his father said that nobody ever went home without speaking. Whatever they had to say during business, they all loved each other when they went home.
The company was strong because the 5 of them stuck together and worked together as one.
As the brothers grew older, unforeseen family and business challenges emerged.
Daddy passed away on December 21st, 1964.
With the sudden and unexpected death of Louis, the patriarch of the business and family, the challenge in the 5 pencil story took on an existential meaning.
He pulled us through.
Melvin, the older brother, without debate, took leadership of the Gordon Enterprises.
And he kept the family together. He really did.
Unexpected debts immediately showed up.
He dies. He hadn't paid them a penny because they didn't ask for it.
Louis had recently constructed a new addition to the furniture store and money was owed to the contractor.
And Melvin had asked him a few weeks before, how you going to pay for that building, Daddy? He said, don't worry about it, I got it covered. Hell, he died.
A more foreboding financial challenge required securing cash for the trust Louis had arranged for his second wife, Shirley's livelihood, in the event of his death.
But he left us some tools to work with, but no capital and no credit. Because all the capital had to go for her.
Searching for the required financial resources to fulfill the trust debt, the bank tried to convince the brothers to sell the furniture business.
Oh, hell no. No.
The brothers were left without cash or credit in their name. Despite pressure from the bank officials, selling a business was not considered an alternative. Neither was defaulting on their financial obligations an option.
We had to raise the money somehow.
The brothers banded together on this decision.
I think those values of love and respect, and no matter how different you are, because those 5 brothers were all very different personalities, but they worked together and had that synergy and that teamwork that you could never expect if you knew each one of them individually.
A unified plan was forged by the 5 that kept both businesses going.
It'd be impossible for everybody to get along every day, every minute of the day. So any differences we ever had, it was settled before we went home.
That's right.
With young and growing families to feed and care for, the boys bit the bullet by forging ahead, cutting their salaries and increasing their work week and workload.
It was tough. It wasn't any fun. I had 2 little kids.
By sticking together and cooperating,
failure was not an option. We couldn't.
No such thing as failure. I mean, you get it done. That's all.
The 5 pencil story advice worked, and after years of sacrifice, the tables turned in favor of a growing and successful Gordon Enterprise under the leadership of the 5.
Grandfather set an example, and the sons following his example. What he instilled in them, he wanted them to not lose.
Every day for weeks and months, the 5 brothers after work hours met to assess business needs and iron out problems before the next day.
We had to know how to do it. I don't know how we had to know how. I was born with that know-how.
Respect for differences reigned, and consensus at the end of the day prevailed. And that operational model still prevails among the uncles and cousins who operate the L. Gordon Iron and Metal business today.
And the next generation coming along, they're all dynamite. They are great.
You know, family businesses, to keep them going for this long is pretty incredible.
Starting with humble beginnings, a young, savvy entrepreneur armed with ambition and spirit created two family businesses, scrap metal and furniture. Today, the Gordon Furniture Store is no longer in existence. However, the legacy left by the father, Louis, and his two sons, Alfred and Ellis, still lives on. The Gordon family provided the buildings for two nonprofit organizations, the Statesville Historical Collection and Special Treasures, which is a thrift store that trains, mentors, and employs foster children to repair and sell furniture, as well as other items to the public. The money earned from the store in turn benefits the children's homes of Iredell County.
How many people can say that? How many companies do that? It don't happen. That's the Gordon way.
For nearly 100 years, L. Gordon Iron and Metal and Gordon's Furniture Store have provided Statesville a highly successful workplace where some employees are third-generational. Employee turnover has been minimal over these years because L. Gordon respects and values the safety and contribution of its workers.
I can't imagine working for a large corporation where there is no personal involvement. I just can't imagine what that would be like.
As far back as the 60s, L. Gordon instituted a profit-sharing plan allowing loyal employees to retire in comfort. Health benefits and fair wages, along with the company's loyalty to the worker, have made this an ideal workplace for those willing to work as hard as their owners work.
You would think that the professors of the Harvard Business School would be down here looking at what this family has done, the Gordon family has done, and how they have been so successful.
Over the years, L. Gordon Iron and Metal has won many awards. In the year 2000, its scrap and recycling business received the National Family Business of the Year, and in the same year, earned the Duke University Family Business Forum. More recently, L. Gordon Iron and Metal was acknowledged for a safety award from the state of North Carolina, the first ever given to a scrap metal company.
L. Gordon Iron and Metal, you're the luckiest person on earth to be able to be employed and work for this family.
Currently, two of the fifth-generation grandsons now are employed working in the scrapyard and learning the business from the bottom up.
I'm very proud of everything that we've done, and we've grown and we continue to grow, but we still keep it simple.
You know, we were recyclers well before recycling was cool. We're manufacturing scrap metal for either the mills or the ingot makers or the secondary makers that make new material.
Updated through the years, state-of-the-art equipment is utilized in the scrapyard. Their office buildings at the yard has not been changed since their predecessor bought it.
I feel like his spirit's still with the company, you know, because we're still doing what he did.
What works is this precious, unchanged method of tight quarters and an open door to customers and employees alike. This open-door practice keeps customers and employees on an equal footing.
There aren't many companies like this.
Giving back to employees, as well as giving back to the community, is the DNA of this family and its business.
They do it because it's in their heart to do it. And that's the way they do with the employees, too.
Harry Gordon, Louis's father, went to the Temple B'nai Israel Synagogue in High Point, usually several times a day.
You know, he was a very religious guy.
Louis, following in his father's footsteps, and his entire family, including children and grandchildren,
How wonderful it was to all be together.
shared deep roots in Congregation Emmanuel in Statesville.
And I always say, this is a kissing congregation, you know, we're all very tightly knit group, and we're not just fellow members, this is like second family.
In the 50s, Mr. Gordon, along with other prominent Jewish leaders in the Piedmont, met at his home in Statesville to create a circuit-riding rabbi position. Temple Emmanuel in Statesville served as headquarters for this itinerant rabbi. The rabbi traveled a 1,400-mile route to serve the scattered Jewish folks in North Carolina who had no access to temple life and teachings. Gratitude to God for their success and compassion for their neighbors have won the Gordon family tremendous respect in their community and beyond.
They're caring, they're kind, they're loving, they're helpful, they're all these things wrapped into one.
A tradition of philanthropic practice began with Lewis. The business community of Statesville welcomed in the early 1900s a Jewish lad when he was struggling to begin his business.
He was a people person. He could sell, buy. He was unbelievable.
He was smart, and he was a good businessman, and very highly respected.
The Gordon family is known for its generosity to the Statesville community.
And they do it quietly. They're not looking for...
Yeah, they don't want publicity.
Like their patriarch, Lewis, the practice of paying it forward to a community that has been good to them still continues through the fourth-generation owners and operators of L. Gordon Iron and Metal.
How my parents taught me to always care for other human beings, care about other human beings. When it was Hanukkah, before we got a new present, we always had to find toys that we had that we didn't want anymore to give to people that were less fortunate.
No one argues that many lives in the Statesville community have been positively impacted and made easier because of the Gordon family generosity.
The Gordons are very modest people, but I think everybody needs to know what they've done for this community.
We take children from various backgrounds and we give them hope and opportunity.
This place is adventurous. It's fun here. The kids here, they're phenomenal.
It's an educational experience here.
It feels so safe here. It's a great place.
The Gordon Hospice House has been a blessing to this community.
If you're going to work in a wonderful place, it's nice to know the history of the place and where it comes from.
Pat's been through a whole lot in the last few years, health-wise. Brought her here, it's wonderful. She has no pain since we've been here. You don't walk around with that feeling all the time and worry all the time.
I'm very thankful that Statesville has a place like 5th Street. 5th Street is so great because they wanted me to succeed and they helped me to succeed.
It gives you your self-esteem back, your pride. It just, everything that you lost, you can gain it back. I'm very thankful and I'll never ever forget.
It could not be any higher in every category. Their generosity, their thoughtfulness, their dedication to the community and civic things and charities in our community.
They've always been so generous.
Yeah, and so many of the things that didn't get any credit for and didn't want any credit for, but we all knew what they were doing.
Because I do believe that God put people like the Gordons on the earth to show other people how you should be.
What's the moral to this story?
Family stories are like family jewels.
He had this drive, this inner drive to make something of himself and to be successful.
They tell us who we are.
Very honored to be a part of the family.
Where we came from.
And this is my son, Grayson James Evans, and he is the first of the 6th generation of the Gordon family.
How our values and beliefs were shaped.
And those values are so strong that they've passed down without being diluted at all from one generation to the next.
The L. Gordon story demonstrates that their generations understood good fortune. Tragedies and challenges were not just a series of random happenings.
And the old saying is the first generation originates, the second generation operates, and the third generation liquidates. I mean, that's not the case. If anything, we have just thrived.
They are the result of how one behaved.
Keep on passing on its legacy of being open-minded and open-hearted.
What integrity one had.
Never forget your faith.
And how carefully each made their decisions.
And their great-grandfathers and grandfathers and fathers, how hard they worked through the years.
Here is a family story that began,
Bottom line, what it takes to have a happy life.
And continues to brighten our world.
I'd like to come back in about 100 years and sit on somebody's shoulder and just look around and see what's transpired and what's happening. So I could be real proud and say, that's my family.